Hey everybody, Zach from Primrose Productions here. Today I thought it'd be fun to talk about the recording process. Just what all is involved from the moment somebody contacts me about recording all the way up through mastering. So this is going to be a little different for everybody, so what I'm going to say in this video isn't necessarily set in stone. You can do it a little bit differently, that's totally fine. Everyone has their own process. This is just my personal way of doing things. So anyway, let's start at the beginning. Somebody contacts me, they say, hey, we want to record with you. All right, cool. So the first thing that I would do in that situation is I jump on either a phone call or preferably a Skype call with the person in question, preferably, again, with the whole band. If the whole band's not available, then just the person who contacted me is fine. Or again, if it's like a solo act, then obviously that's who I'm going to be talking to. And I just want to jump on a call with them and we talk about their project and just to get the framework for what we're dealing with. And so I ask them things like how many songs, what genre, obviously, what kind of instrumentation, when are you looking to start the project, things like that. Everybody does things a little differently, so that conversation just helps me get an idea for what your specific project needs and how I can give it to you. Okay, so after that conversation, we're gonna work out a day for pre-production. And sometimes I'll go to the client, sometimes the client will come to me for pre-production, but it varies depending on where everyone is, what everyone's availability is. But basically, pre-production is gonna be a day where I get together with the band, we sit in a room, preferably a practice space, and we're gonna talk about the songs, they're gonna play me the songs, and just I want to get an idea for what each song sounds like, what each song is going to need individually. And so I'll have them play through a song for me, and then we'll stop and we'll talk about it, and we'll be like, okay, what's your vision for this song? Are there any songs that exist already that you want this song to sound like? And just what your goal for this specific song is going to be, and what I'm hearing in my head, and occasionally I'll suggest a small tweak, maybe like a certain vocal line isn't doing it for me, or I think a chord change could be slightly different and it would sound better. And when I make suggestions like that, it's not a demand. I'm not saying you have to make this change. It's just a suggestion. I bounce it off of you. If you agree, we do it. If you don't, I might try and persuade you a little bit, but I'm not going to push it too hard. If you're really adamantly against something, then that's that. It's your song. So we want to make sure that you're happy with it. Okay, so then we'll do that for every song that we're going to be recording. So play a song, sit down, talk about it. Play a song, sit down, talk about it. Just so by the time we actually go into the studio, we know exactly what every single song needs and how we're going to do that. All right, so then first day in the studio. Okay, this is going to be scratch tracks. What we do for this day is we set up guitar and vocals, or if piano and vocals, basically the main instrument that everyone else is focused on. So it's usually a guitar. So guitar and the vocals so people can follow where they are. Occasionally we'll throw a bass in there if the drums are going to need the bass to record too, because obviously drums and bass vibe a lot. So sometimes you'll need to do the bass, but sometimes we'll just do the guitar and the vocals. And what you're going to do is you're going to go through each song and we're going to record an outline for each song. And we'll do it to a click track preferably, so we can go through and we'll put markers in the track so we know where the verse starts, the chorus, the bridge, where all that starts. And we'll get a complete map for each individual song with the guitar and the vocals through there. And the reason we do this is so that the drums have something to play along to, because drums are the backbone of every track. No matter how incredible the other instrumentation is, drums are hands down the basis of your track. So we want to make sure that the drums have something good to play to so we can get a solid drum track, no problem. So once we've done the scratch tracks, then the next day, or sometimes 2 days, depending on how many songs we're doing, we're going to track drums. All right, so with drums, with a lot of the songs, you're going to record like all the instruments for one song and then all the instruments for the next song. But for the drum part, you want to record all the drums on the same day or in 2 consecutive days. And the reason for this is because drums have so many individual microphones and different parts and everything, the drum sound can change completely from day to day. And if you want, like, if there's one song that you need a completely different drum sound for, then that's fine. But generally, you want the drum sound to be consistent through the whole album or EP or whatever. And yeah, guitar tones will vary slightly, bass tones will vary slightly, but drums pretty much are always going to sound the same for the whole record. So you're going to take a full day, maybe 2 full days, and track all the drum parts. So after all the drums for every single song are completely done, then we're going to start working on the first song. For the first song, we'll start on bass. We'll record the whole bass track. Once that's done, we'll do the rhythm guitars, and sometimes usually there's more than one rhythm guitar track, so we'll track all of those next. Then we'll move on to probably, if there's a keyboard part, like a rhythm general keyboard part, we'll do that next, but usually there's not for the stuff that I do. So after that, we'll go on to vocals. The lead vocal, we'll get the lead vocal done. Once the lead vocals are done, we can do lead guitar. The reason we do it that way is because we don't want the lead guitar to fight with the lead vocal. If you did the lead guitar first, odds are you'll end up with the guitarist doing a lot of awesome, crazy guitar work, but then it'll completely clash with the vocal, it'll overpower the vocal, and you don't want that to happen. So you do the lead vocal first. Okay, I'm sorry, not you, me. I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life here. I'm not trying to tell you what your recording process should be. We're going over what my recording process would be. So you do the lead, I do the lead vocal first, okay, and then we track the lead guitar. And then after lead guitar is done, we'll add any harmonies for the vocals. And then once those are done, we'll add any additional little production things, like maybe you think it needs a tambourine in one spot or a synth pad over the chorus or things like that. And so then song 1 is done, and then we'll repeat the process for the second song and the third song and so on. So basically drums all in one shot, and then song by song for bass, rhythm guitar, lead vocal, lead guitar, vocal harmonies, extra production. Okay, so then once all your songs are tracked and completed, then we'll just double check everything, we'll edit everything so it's ready to be mixed. Before it's mixed, we want to check the edit and make sure that there's nothing else anybody wants to add to the song, because once we've started the mixing process, if we decide later that we want to add anything, then we have to completely remix everything, and it's just too much work. So finish recording, do all the editing, and check the edits, make sure everyone is cool with what the edited track sounds like before we move on to mixing. So now we go to mixing, and the way I do mixing is I will generally mix one song out of the album, and I'll get that song, without any feedback, I'll get that song to where I think it's ready. Once I think that song is ready, then I send it to the artist, and the artist gives me their feedback on it, and basically the first track is the guinea pig for the rest of the album. So you figure out what you want changed in that track, and then we'll go back and forth however many times it takes to get that one track sounding good. And once everybody's happy with that track, then I have a template basically for what the rest of the album is going to look like mixing wise. So I can reference that one track, and then I mix the rest of the album. Once the rest of the album is mixed, I'll send all those tracks to the artist. They'll listen through, they'll get me the list of revisions for the whole album. They'll send it back, and at this point they should just be tiny tweaks, because we've already did that first mix and like done all the heavy revising to that. So everything should pretty much lock into place with that first song. So there should only be tiny little arrangement tweaks from here on out for the rest of the album. Once the mixes are approved, then we master, okay? And obviously we gotta master the whole album together, because mastering is about the overall tone of the whole album and the overall levels of all the tracks. So once all the mixes are approved, then we'll master it, and very rarely we'll have to revise a master. Usually once mastering's done, then we give that to the client and they're happy with it, and that's it. So yeah, that's pretty much the whole process from being contacted through the end of mastering. Then obviously once it's mastered and you've taken the master and you have the tracks, then generally you'll go through the whole release process, which we went over in a series that we just did. And yeah, so you'll take that and you'll go to the release process and you'll put your music out into the world. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. It's just a little bit of insight into what the process is like, what you can expect if you contact me or pretty much any other studio. Like I said, the process is pretty similar overall for everybody. There's maybe some slight differences in how people do things, but the overall picture, this is what you would expect when you contact a studio wanting to record with them. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you found it helpful if you've never been in a studio before, or if you have and you're looking to go in a new studio, or if you're specifically looking to come into the studio with me and now you know what my process is like. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope you found it helpful, and I will see you in the next video.